And now, with this viral clip from this show, Dan Bongino was posting it. We had Derek Harvey on, who mentioned that, Trump declassified Crossfire Hurricane. He probably brought copies of the documents with him. They went to get it back because they don't want it exposed or something like that. And it was the team that did it that went to his house to take it. This all makes sense. They come to his house and say, you better lock this up, lock it better. He does. Then the FBI comes back and breaks the lock. Different group of FBI agents. It sounds like we're at the point where there's different factions in the FBI that are fighting each other. Mm-hmm. A poll just came out that majority of the people in this country feel that an element of the FBI is acting as Joe Biden's personal Gestapo.
You said that was a poll. What's the poll?
Was it? We have it. Examiner says majority see FBI as Biden's personal Gestapo after Trump raid. This is the Examiner. This is not some, this is crazy. It's a Rasmussen survey. 53% of likely voters agree there's a group of politicized thugs, the top of the FBI, that are using the FBI as Joe Biden's personal Gestapo. This is civil war.
I saw them as Gestapo when they raided Veritas.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's insane.
This is the breakdown. This is the culture war reaching the highest levels of government that I was told would never happen. So when you hear, like I mentioned, when you hear that the FBI told Trump's people to secure these documents with a padlock, and they do, and then a few months later come in and smash the padlock, it makes no sense. Unless you point out, unless the reality is it was a different group of FBI agents who did it. Mm-hmm. And I had someone reach out to me claiming to be a retired agent who said, you're exactly right. There is leadership at the top, but different, managers or supervisors in different field offices.
Yeah, different interests.
I'm sure.
Right?
Exactly. Are going to be doing things against each other's interests.
Yeah, I think, I was actually looking into this because, a lot of people started talking about defunding the FBI. And I was actually thinking about what could a president do with just an executive order, right?
Abolish it.
They could do a lot. The FBI doesn't have an explicit much in the way of explicit delegated authority from Congress. It actually is delegated to the Attorney General, who then has the right to appoint officials. But the FBI is sort of implicitly, it's not actually mandated by Congress in the same way that other law enforcement agencies are. And so theoretically, a president and an Attorney General could essentially just make it an executive order that's the FBI only does the things that is very specifically mandated to do by Congress, like track serial killers, and everything else we're just going to
Is that mandated by Congress?
There's certain specific statutes that mandate things that the FBI should handle, but they're narrow.
But does Congress prescribe through statutory law the maintenance of the FBI?
No.
I read,
or it might fund it, but that's different from saying. So that it basically you could basically strip the FBI of authority, even if you didn't strip it of funding via executive order.
There's a meme that's going around that Trump could sign an executive order disbanding it outright because it's got no congressional authority into its existence, that it was created by executive order or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not
I don't know if that's
sure,
true.
But I'm pretty confident though about the ability of the president to just kind of decide to say, okay, guess what, FBI, on day one, you're not doing counterintelligence anymore. Right, done. You don't have any access to it. I'm allocating that authority to other intelligence agencies.
Oh wow, it was linked to prohibition. That's where it started.
Huh, that sounds right.
There's a lot of. I think prohibition is one of the big things. Bank robberies, when bank robberies were a big deal, that was a big trigger for. I think that was more when the FBI really got a lot of its expansion, because one of the problems that. It was a huge problem in the Midwest, where you have all these states that are pretty small and can't think about something like Kansas City, where it's across the border in Kansas and Missouri. So you'd have bank robbers constantly robbing a bank in Kansas and then crossing the border to Missouri and not getting prosecuted.
Right. Roosevelt did start an early form of the FBI after McKinley was assassinated.
It's interesting how it evolved into existence. It wasn't outright created. So when you look at the history of the FBI, it talks about the National Bureau of Criminal Identification, which eventually evolves into the Bureau of Investigation, which eventually evolves into the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It's interesting. Yeah. And there was this is interesting. It says there were fears the new agency would serve as a secret police department. Again, at Roosevelt's urging, Bonaparte moved to organize a formal Bureau of Investigation, which would then have its own staff of special agents.
Yeah, this was Teddy Roosevelt. I think I'm literally just started a book about this because I was interested. Teddy Roosevelt was annoyed with essentially, environmental issues, actually, oddly enough. Like,
Progressive.
yeah,
Like a conservative.
pretty progressive.
Yeah.
Like he didn't like, some big corporate interests screwing up the environment in certain states and, getting away with it.
Gave
with
us national parks.
Yeah.
This is crazy. It was created by the Attorney General. He just one day brought in people and said, report to the chief examiner as investigators. And then they gave a name to the group, the Bureau of Investigation. And then in 1935, they renamed it the Federal Bureau of Investigation. That's it.
Yeah.
In which case, the executive branch could just literally be like, you're gone.
Yeah, or just reroute it. Like basically, I mean, there might be other laws or other statutes that are like funding the FBI or essentially the civil service rules that protect the people there. Okay, that's all fine, but you could just strip it of authority and tell them all to go play bridge. Yeah.
Not go kidnap a governor.
Yeah, right. Or all that, you can stop doing that.
My animal brain, my lizard brain, has a hard time with the idea of it erasing the FBI because it's been with me my whole life. So I'm like, wouldn't that cause chaos if we don't have an FBI?
Well, I mean, you need to replace certain of its functions for sure, right? Like you don't want to. I mean, this is not like get rid of having a sort of federal police force. There are things you need a federal police force for when it comes to enforcing federal law. Yes, okay, but I mean, one thing I joked about was you just create a new Federal Justice Bureau. Think about what the acronym is.
FJB.
Right.
Agreed.
The
Just
new
for that reason, we do it.
Right. A new Federal Justice Bureau
Start a
that
petition.
duplicates the functions of the FBI, but you just make all the current FBI officials like reapply for their jobs. Right. That would be, there's a lot of like clever things you could do given the fact that the institution doesn't have that much statutory protection.
How amazing would it be if Donald Trump gets reelected and then immediately following his inauguration and swearing in, he does an address where he's like, my fellow Americans, you may remember a few years ago when the FBI came into my home. It was terrible, terrible. Everyone says it was one of the most terrible things. I am signing an executive order. There is no more FBI. It'd be hilarious.
I'd
It would
be
be
stoked.
not a good
I'd be
political
stoked.
move.
No, I'd be stoked.
Why? He's
Wow.
got
Bring it, tear it
only
down.
one term. He can't get reelected. He's not going to care. He's like, do something. I don't know. They're
I
gonna-
understand the need for it, though. I do. I get it. But this has got to go. This is
There
deranged what they're
needs to
doing
be
now.
like radical change.
Oh, my goodness.
Like and it's just a corrupt. Right now, the institution itself is really
I
corrupt and
forget
dysfunctional.
what president started the CIA, but whichever one did, after JFK was assassinated, I believe that president wrote a letter, like an op-ed saying we got to disband the CIA because he was
JFK.
convinced.
Scatter it to the wind.
He was convinced like they had something to do with it.
Harry Truman, 1947.
It was Truman who said that.
Yeah, Truman said it. He created it after JFK was assassinated. Then he wrote a letter saying we got to disband the CIA, and then the head of the CIA went and visited Truman and said you got to not say that, and he was like, nah, I'm saying.
Wait, hold on. So like Truman created it.
Yep.
And then after JFK died, he wrote a letter saying,
An op-ed or something saying like I think they got too much power.
Wow.
That's not what I intended. Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know about, like, I think the CIA certainly does have, its fingers in some bad stuff, like a lot of bad stuff actually, but domestically sounds like it's mostly the FBI.
Yeah, the FBI.
Yeah.
Oh, the other unique thing you could do is, we are kind of unique among Western countries in that we have both the same institution handles both like federal policing and counterintelligence, and those are not necessarily like combined functions, right? One is like detecting spies and like thwarting foreign intelligence efforts, and the other is like just federal police work, right? Like investigating crimes and helping the DOJ prosecute them.
If Donald Trump is going to get rid of the FBI, he's got to preserve the X-Files and make sure that they're the one thing. Isn't the X-Files real though? Like it was an actual like the X-Files show
Supposedly.
was based off of like the filing they would do for things they couldn't explain. Not like any agents actually like aliens are among us, but they were like, hey, we don't know how this happened. This is crazy.
Well,
you know what I mean?
if people out there have watched the latest episode of Tales from the Inverted World, they would have seen the letter I wrote to President Carter about me demanding transparency of when he was on the campaign trail, he promised to release all UFO documents because Carter saw UFO in Georgia. And he talked about it extensively on the campaign trail, promising this. And the second he got into office, like most politicians do, he backpedaled and didn't release anything because of national security, quote unquote. But I'm still trying to hit him up.
Oh yeah,
I
he'll
want to
get
get that
back
stuff
to you.
released. Yeah.
I think they were drone programs. A lot of
Yeah.
what people were told were alien, or just whether
Could
or
be.
not they have fusion packs on board. I wonder.
And that's what I tell them. Actually, it could be extraterrestrials. It could be our military. It could be
It
interdimensional
is
beings.
totally fictional, but I remember reading, just want to clarify that. I remember reading something that it was like the idea of the show came from something that was really within the FBI.
Yeah, Air Force.
It was the Air Force?
Yeah, I just said. Well, I just saw an article. Was there a real life version of the X Files? The answer is yes, and it was part of the Air Force. Alex Hollings. Let me see if I can find the exact.
Who says it's
thing about
false?
this.
Wikipedia.
Oh, that's,
No, it says it's
that's
fictional.
FBI. Yeah.
But that's a thing. Like, it says a fictional case deemed unsolvable by the FBI. I read somewhere that the show was inspired by something that, like, it's not literally the X-Files, but like somebody was reading about how the FBI couldn't solve something, and they're like, "Oh, we should do a show like that and call it something."
Well, they have certainly done experiments like the remote viewing stuff where they'd sit the cops in a room or just
the
random
FBI did.
people. I believe it was FBI.
Well, you know about the men who stare at goats.
I haven't seen it, but yeah, I know about it.
Well, like
What it's based on.
right. Yeah, the Stargate program.
Giving them, were they drugging them up?
Remote
to try
viewing?
to, yeah.
What's
yeah.
the goats?
So weird.
Do they actually stare at goats? The men in
Weren't they
Stargate?
trying to
I don't
explode
know.
them or something?
Oh, I don't know about that.
I think they were trying to use telekinesis to kill goats. I'm not sure. I read about this, but yeah, the U.S. people, like, yo, bro, we were talking about some crazy stuff downstairs, like CIA masks, like these super high tech Mission Impossible kind of masks they have.
Yep.
The heart attack gun.
Yep.
Bro, the heart attack gun is real.
Oh, yeah.
Let me pull this up.
Oh, it's hilarious. You can go, and there was a great channel on YouTube. I think they nuked it. It was called Film Archives. And this person would upload great congressional hearings from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s up until now, actually. And there was one with the heart attack gun. They're kind of just passing around the heart attack gun. You're like, oh, so you shoot this at someone and give them a heart attack? Okay.
the
all right.
CIA's heart attack gun.
Yeah, all right. No doubt. No doubt. So
Look
if they
at
had
this.
that in the 60s or 70s, what?
Frozen
On Earth.
shellfish toxin would enter the target's bloodstream and kill them in mere minutes.
Mm.
But I kind of wonder, like, couldn't you just put, like,
Oh my God,
anything?
that's real.
Yeah,
That's real.
Yeah,
That's
of
from
course.
yeah, that's it. That's it.
So the idea was back then, I guess it was hard to detect the toxin. So if someone was shot by the dart, they would die and they'd be like, I don't know what happened.
Right.
These days, I mean, there's so much stuff. I was reading about certain like vitamin mixtures that can cause cardiac arrest, heart attacks, and that when they did your blood test, they would just see like potassium and sodium and stuff and be like, I don't know. But like we've way advanced the craziness of this. Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.